Have you ever seen a calm, soft-spoken neighbor suddenly flip and stand up against someone bigger and louder? That's exactly what's happening between Canada and the United States. Once famous for settling disputes politely, Canada has now shown it's willing to go head-to-head, surprising everybody who assumed America had the upper hand. One spark lit the fuse: unexpected tariffs from the Trump administration. In the blink of an eye, all the old rules were thrown out, leaving everyone from auto workers to energy executives asking, how bad will this get? Even more intriguing is the ammunition Canada holds in reserve. When most people think of Canada, they picture a friendly, modest neighbor. What they often overlook is the rich oil, gas, and mineral resources that power big swaths of American industry. Now, Ottawa is signaling that if push comes to shove, those resources might be used as bargaining chips. So where does this shocking tug-of-war leave both nations, and how could it rewrite the entire North American trade landscape? For decades, the United States and Canada maintained an easygoing partnership. Sure, they bickered over softwood lumber and agricultural quotas every now and then, but the disputes never escalated into all-out conflict. Most negotiations ended quietly behind closed doors, and each side walked away with a handshake and a minor compromise. That peaceful era appears to have vanished. The moment new tariffs came down from the Trump administration, Canada answered with a bold, "We're not backing down." Suddenly, the polite neighbor to the north shed its usual restraint. While the world watched in disbelief, Ottawa put a series of retaliatory tariffs on the table, sending a clear message. This time, we won't be the only one losing. At first, the Trump administration believed the usual playbook would work. Slap tariffs on steel, aluminum, and other goods, then force the weaker partner to cave in. Canada's taking advantage of us, they said, justifying high tariffs on everything from metal imports to dairy products. There was a sense that Canada would grumble, maybe retaliate half-heartedly, and then settle. But Canada responded in ways few expected. Overnight, Ottawa made it clear that if Washington wanted to throw punches, Canada could counterpunch with the same force. Tariffs were matched tariff for tariff, and products from American states with powerful political lobbies were singled out. Suddenly, the fight was no longer theoretical. It was very real, and the potential for damage on both sides became impossible to ignore. Behind Canada's polite veneer lies a strategic advantage that many outside North America overlook: massive reserves of oil, natural gas, and critical minerals. These are not minor resources. They're the bedrock of modern industry. American refineries, especially in the Midwest, are designed to process heavy Canadian crude. Factories, tech firms, and even the defense sector rely on Canada's mineral wealth, from nickel to rare earths. Cutting or taxing these exports can strike deep into the heart of the American economy. Ottawa's message is straightforward: if you hurt our economy with tariffs, we have ways to hurt yours just as badly. It's a risky card to play. Canada depends heavily on energy exports to the U.S., but the threat alone signals to Washington that losing Canadian oil or minerals could trigger higher prices at gas pumps, surging production costs, and inevitable political fallout. By brandishing these resources, Canada isn't just talking tough, it's demonstrating leverage powerful enough to reshape entire sectors in the United States. For everyday Canadians, this shift marks a dramatic change in tone. Historically, they believed that maintaining a friendly relationship with the United States benefited everyone. Yet, the moment trade threats turned real, public opinion rallied around a stronger, more assertive government stance. Now, it's not just politicians puffing out their chests. Ordinary people also support Ottawa's decision to defend domestic industries, no matter the cost. Perhaps no sector illustrates the high stakes of this battle better than automobiles. Modern car manufacturing isn't confined to one country. It's a complex web. Parts might be made in Canada, assembled in the United States, and shipped to Mexican factories for specific components. Tariffs introduced at any step can skyrocket costs across the entire supply chain. That, in turn, could lead to more expensive vehicles on dealership lots. For electric cars, the problem multiplies. Batteries depend on minerals that Canada possesses in abundance. If those resources face tariffs, or if Ottawa seriously considers restricting supply, American companies could pay significantly more. Not only does that push EV prices higher, but it also slams the brakes on America's push to adopt greener technology. In a world already concerned about climate change, such a move could stall the transition away from fossil fuels. On top of the automotive chaos, Canada chose its list of American imports to tax with the precision of a surgeon. Goods like dairy, agricultural produce, whiskey, and chocolate come from states with powerful political lobbies. By targeting businesses that can shout the loudest in Washington, Canada ensures that its concerns won't be brushed off. Political leaders in states like Kentucky, bourbon whiskey, or Wisconsin, dairy, are hearing from voters who suddenly fear losing a massive market north of the border. Meanwhile, American consumers are caught in the crossfire. If retail prices climb because of tariffs, frustration will mount. Voters might then demand that Washington back off. This domestic ripple effect was exactly Canada's goal, to force a reckoning in the U.S. Capitol and show that any pain inflicted on Canada would come back around in American politics. When you add rising fuel costs or supply chain interruptions for electronics into the equation, the potential fallout goes far beyond a few pricier groceries. Industry leaders in Silicon Valley, farming communities in the Midwest, and even major oil producers in Texas are suddenly on the same page. We can't ignore Canada's influence. We need to find a compromise before things get worse. All these battles unfold under the umbrella of the USMCA, the successor to NAFTA, meant to stabilize North American trade. Yet, the situation now is anything but stable. With tensions boiling over, there's talk that the agreement might be at risk if both sides refuse to blink. If the US keeps pushing tariffs and Canada keeps firing back, the core principles of free and open trade in North America could crack. Enter other global players. Canada has been quietly expanding trade deals with the EU through the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA, and joining forces with Asia-Pacific nations via the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. Should relations with the United States deteriorate further, these parallel routes might become Canada's main highways of commerce. That leaves American businesses on the outside looking in, worried about losing easy access to the very resources that power their factories. No trade war happens in a vacuum. The United States isn't just in a standoff with Canada, it has ongoing disagreements with Europe and China as well. If Washington continues to confront multiple partners at once, the international trade environment could spiral. Canada is now showing that even a friendly neighbor isn't willing to be a silent bystander. If one country after another follows Canada's example, the world could shift toward a new norm where retaliatory tariffs become the go-to strategy. That prospect makes big companies nervous, especially those in high-tech and defense. Rare earths and strategic minerals are crucial for semiconductors, batteries, and military hardware. If Canada withholds or heavily taxes those resources, it's not just consumer goods at stake. The ripple effects could impact everything from national security to clean energy transitions. In a system already stretched by global tensions, one more major trade dispute could trigger broader instability. In a matter of months, Canada has evolved from a mild-mannered neighbor to a formidable adversary willing to stand its ground against the world's largest economy. For the United States, it's a startling wake-up call, a reminder that no trade partner is truly too nice to fight back. Each side faces a painful dilemma: continue down this path and risk seeing vehicle prices soar, industries disrupted, and national pride threatened, or negotiate before the damage becomes irreversible. What happens next could forever redefine trade across North America. If the U.S. digs in its heels, it risks alienating an essential ally and potentially boosting inflation at home. If it backs down, the Trump administration's promise to stand firm on tariffs might look hollow. Meanwhile, Canada is gambling on the idea that it can secure more balanced agreements or pivot to new partnerships if the U.S. refuses to budge. Will the great northern neighbor truly walk away from the American market? Or will both countries find a last-minute fix that spares industries from total turmoil?